I think we can all agree that it's been confirmed that the animatronics of the first Five Nights at Freddy's were possessed by the victims of the missing children incident. At the end of Five Nights at Freddy's 3, Purple Guy is confronted by the ghosts of his victims, and that's how he ends up becoming spring-locked into Spring Bonnie. Other sources like the books and the movie will also tell you that the murdered children do indeed haunt these robots. However, let's cast our minds back to 2014. Five Nights at Freddy's was just released, Scott Cawthon had no idea if this game was going to catch on, and a sequel wasn't guaranteed. I find it depressing how often theories and speculation can be shot down by retcons and newly established continuity, never allowing some people's opinions to be heard. I get that some theories can be flat out wrong, like Foxy being a good guy and accidentally killing you. Hell, I'm no stranger to having a theory that is incorrect myself. My theory video I made about how we play as Charlie from the Silver Eyes trilogy in Help Wanted 2 can be easily disproved by reading the epilogue of The Fourth Closet. I really should have read the books all the way through and did more research when making that video. I don't know what I was thinking. However, I think theories that cover individual games can be just as valid as those that span multiple games in the series, and everyone's voice in this community should be heard, even if you think their opinions might be wrong. Before we get to the main theory of this video, I want to talk about one of Five Nights at Freddy's retcons. Five Nights at Freddy's is no stranger to retcons. The earliest official one I can think of is Golden Freddy and how he was supposed to be the disguised purple guy used in his murders. Five Nights at Freddy's 2 confirms as much.
Someone used one of the suits. We had a spare in the back, a yellow one. Someone used it. Now none of them are acting right.
And the novel The Silver Eyes even implies that this was the suit William Afton originally used, as a possible reference. Five Nights at Freddy's 3 retconned Golden Freddy into being possessed by a fifth child, and Spring Bonnie became Purple Guy's suit. The reason for this retcon was Scott Cawthon didn't want the reveal of Springtrap to be predictable and catch everyone off guard. Even though Golden Freddy would have made way more sense since Yellow Bear here looks identical to Freddy Fazbear, and it makes no sense that Bonnie, a character who shouldn't have existed when Fredbear's Family Diner was up and running, would get the golden treatment. I like Springtrap, he's one of my favorite characters, but even I have to admit William Afton using a bunny suit to lure children away from their parents so he can murder them in a restaurant where the mascot is a bear makes absolutely no sense. It surprises me that there are fans out there who still believe the writing of Five Nights at Freddy's is perfect and never had any retcons or only retconned one or two small things when I can point out at least a dozen retcons on my own. You might be surprised to hear this, but I don't have a problem with the retcons in Five Nights at Freddy's. I actually find it kind of fun to pick out what was canon before or might have been canon before the changes to the continuity. I don't hate Springtrap because I would have preferred him to have been Golden Freddy. I don't hate Purple Guy because he got the name William Afton. The reason why I'm bringing up retcons is because I believe I found the earliest retcon that even predates the Golden Freddy one. In Five Nights at Freddy's 1, we are introduced to Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy, animatronics that do get a little quirky at night. As the game progresses and you do a little digging in the game files, you find out that they were involved in the missing children's incident by having the murderer hide their corpses inside them. Due to this, the band acts weird, like really weird, and will actively hunt you down. The reason why they've all become such weirdos is because they're haunted by the ghosts of the children hidden inside them. At least, that's the story we've all been told and led to believe. However, before all the sequels and all the established lore, I believe the story of Five Nights at Freddy's was darker and more depressing. How? Well, what if I told you that in the original version of Five Nights at Freddy's story, the animatronics were never haunted? That is one heck of a big pill to swallow, like the size of an ostrich egg. We are all so used to what the sequels and confirmed mythos says that it's hard to believe one guy when he says the animatronics were not supposed to be haunted. But I'm not just talking out of my ass here. I do have evidence to back up what I'm saying. We also have to remember we are dealing with the writing of Scott Cawthon here. A man who will lead us astray with his stories, having us believe one thing when all of a sudden it turns out something else completely different was happening the whole time. Remember Sister Location and Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria Simulator? I would not put it past them to have planted false evidence to make everyone think Freddy and the gang were haunted when they were just regular malfunctioning animatronics the whole time, then got retconned into actually being haunted when the sequel started showing up. The trial's in session, so let's look at all the evidence I have to offer. Let's start with the gameplay. For robots haunted by ghosts, they seem to have very predictable patterns. Bonnie always shows up on the left, Chica on the right, Foxy dashes down the hallway with how desperate he is to say hi on the left, and Freddy takes his sweet time and a potty break to reach you on the right. Everyone will tell me this is due to the limited and primitive game engine that was used. Well, that might explain mechanically why everyone in the band takes the same approach at taking you down each night, then act surprised when it doesn't work. In universe, it doesn't really explain anything. If ghosts actively haunted these animatronics, you'd think they'd take a different approach once in a while, trying different doors, or maybe even some nights feel cranky and not want to do the whole creepy animatronic routine. Freddy doesn't get off the stage the first 2 nights, and it's not because his ghost is feeling lazy, it's because he's deactivated. Once night 3 rolls around, someone activates him and he's on patrol. Why would Freddy be deactivated the first 2 nights though? Well, that actually has to do with the story I think this game once had, but I'll touch on that later. For now, I talked about the gameplay of all 4 animatronics together, now I want to explain them all individually. I'll make my job easy by lumping Chica and Bonnie together as one, since they technically do the same thing, with only slight differences that I will point out. Bonnie makes his way backstage and to the supply closet on his way to your office. There's an off chance that he will stare, lovingly into the camera at you backstage. Chica will get a snack from the kitchen as she makes her way to your office because I guess even animatronics get hungry and need something late at night that hits the spot. On later nights, both get a bit twitchy because I guess someone spiked them with Rockstar energy. Get it? Rockstar? Because they're both in a band? Oh, come on! That was funny! People automatically assume that Bonnie's handsome mugshot, Chica doing a late-night pizza run, and both of them getting into a contest to see who can spout the most gibberish is the result of them being haunted. Well, as a guy who once spent a summer with my sister who worked as a party clown, which sometimes involved going to places with real animatronics, and seeing these animatronics in other places up close, I can tell you seeing these things break down in front of you in real time can make you think they're possessed. In reality, they've just been worn down to the point internal servos and mechanisms are breaking, but still trying to function as intended. Bonnie doing his best Fabio impression is just the robot sensors detecting the cameras in use and getting a closer look. Chica making all that racket in the kitchen is simply due to it being dark in there, and I don't think these things have night vision installed. So yeah, she's gonna clumsily bump around in the dark until she makes her way out. Both yakkadoodles wanting to chat your ear off is something I'll get to later, but there is a logical explanation for that. Foxy is surprisingly the easiest to explain since he has the simplest behavior. He really is the most predictable out of all of them. Foxy will start out being shy and hesitant, taking a few steps forward but really thinking about whether he actually should start running. Then he realizes this is why they pay him the big bucks, and that's when he decides to go, go, go. You don't need to be possessed by the ghost of a murdered child to do the job you were designed for as an animatronic. Foxy was made to be that guy who runs into the room and yell, "Surprise! Happy birthday, you landlubber!" Since you're the only person at Freddy's late at night, Foxy's not going to care if it's not your birthday because his systems are telling him he has a job to do. Since he's broken, doesn't matter how many times he's already tried this little party trick, Foxy is going to keep detecting you as a new party guest each night. As for why Foxy takes some of your power, I really can't explain that besides faulty wiring due to the building's poor maintenance. Why Foxy screams at you with the souls of the damned instead of shouting, "Happy birthday!" when he reaches your office is something that I'll get to when I talk about all of the animatronics' broken voice boxes. For now, I need to move on to the big grizzly cheese himself, Freddy Fazbear. Freddy is the hardest animatronic to explain, though not impossible. For the first 2 nights, Freddy doesn't get his fat rear off the stage. Odd, since this game is named Five Nights at Freddy's, not Burning Nights at Bonnie's. Well, this can be simply explained by him being deactivated on the first 2 nights and then someone reactivating him on night 3. But who would be deactivating and reactivating Freddy? Who has that much control over the animatronics? Sorry to keep you waiting just a little longer on the answer, but I'll explain that when I get to the story. When Freddy finally does get off stage, he takes his sweet time in the whole scenic route before getting to your office. This bear gets around. He even takes a little piss break before coming to see you. In the ladies' room? I think Freddy might be confused. Then again, it is modern day. Well, this game actually takes place in 1993, but hey, I'm not going to argue with the male grizzly bear if he wants to use the women's washroom. He also decides to play you a little tune while in the kitchen. Aww. Freddy took inspiration from Bonnie and gives you his best mugshot once he's right outside your office. This bear is the most unique animatronic because once he gets inside your office, Freddy can actually get bored of waiting to kill you and decide to leave, although he'll just remain outside your door for the rest of the night. Freddy does show a lot of odd behavior, but that doesn't mean a ghost is controlling his actions. All the animatronics except for Foxy have a security mode activated at night that makes them patrol the pizzeria, looking for break-ins and any wandering endoskeletons without their costumes on. This is why you find them in odd places, because they are checking them. Freddy's programming takes this more seriously than his buddies because he checks the most places. As to why he can enter your office and leave out of boredom, my theory is that Freddy's security system is based on movement. If the security guard isn't moving a whole lot, Freddy's systems won't find anything suspicious and just leave. I don't know how you miss a big-ass grizzly casually walking into your office then just casually leaving, but hey, whatever keeps you alive at night. Now I'll talk about the voice boxes of the animatronics and how they're all broken. Yes, every animatronic's voice box is broken. You might argue against me on this by listening to Foxy casually singing from Pirate Cove. But just because something is broken doesn't mean it's entirely non-functional. I can explain why Foxy is able to sing in Pirate Cove, but screams at you like he just stepped on a Lego when he leans in through your door. When an animatronic's voice box is broken, it can still sing and talk at certain volumes and decibels. However, after said broken voice box reaches a certain volume, its voice becomes a garbled mess that sounds like screaming. These animatronics have been around since possibly the 1970s, and if their voice modulators haven't been repaired since the first activation, yeah, they might be just a little worn out by 1993. For all we know, when each robot catches you, they could be trying to pull a Foxy and shout, "Happy birthday" at you. Honestly, that would be kind of funny. Happy birthday! Here's a free Freddy Fazbear suit. Hope it fits or else you're gonna die. Freddy Fazbear's Pizza has a bunch of weird stuff going on. From Bonnie and Chica getting all head twitchy, to the message "it's me" being everywhere, to posters being swapped out and replaced with newspaper clippings and all sorts of weird imagery, to a big yellow bear getting all lazy and slumping over in your office after seeing his poster. How is all this weird stuff happening if the place isn't haunted? Well, that's because it ain't. None of the weird stuff is actually going on. Mike Schmidt is just tripping mad balls as the nights progress and his job is getting to him. Ask yourself, if you worked a job where each night you had to literally fight for your life as deadly animatronics slowly approached your only safe haven, wouldn't you start losing your cool too? Mike did his homework on Freddy Fazbear's Pizza and Fazbear Entertainment before getting this job. While fending for himself, all of his research and memories of what took place here start rushing back to him, causing poor Mike to hallucinate about everything he knows. When the player sees anything quote-unquote supernatural, it's just Mike hallucinating from our point of view because the reality of the situation is getting to him and he's losing touch with said reality. Finally, it's time to talk about what I've been building up to this whole entire video. What the original story of Five Nights at Freddy's was without the sequels and the animatronics ever being haunted. Who's pulling the strings of the animatronics and why they act certain ways on certain nights. I am proud to present you the not haunted story of Five Nights at Freddy's 1, the story of the game before the sequels and the rest of the lore existed. I hope you enjoy. It's the 1980s. Freddy Fazbear's Pizza is the most popular chain of restaurants due to its colorful band of anthropomorphic characters. Bonnie the Bunny, Chica the Chick, Foxy the Pirate, and of course, the mascot himself, the one and only Freddy Fazbear. Since the 1970s, families have been going to these pizzerias to enjoy a slice and play the games, while children watch with amazement and cheer on the singing anthropomorphic robots. If you could afford him, Foxy would run from his cove right up to your child's table to give them a surprise birthday wish, although sometimes this would scare the kids who weren't expecting him. The animatronics were sometimes even allowed to leave the stage and walk around during the day to greet and hug the eager young ones. Everything seemed to be perfect for Fazbear Entertainment, but unfortunately it didn't stay this way, and it didn't take long for everything to spiral out of control. It started with Foxy, the pirate fox running to random tables periodically and scaring guests who didn't book him. The Fazbear technicians couldn't find a solution to the problem as the systems appeared to be working fine, but as he kept running to more and more random tables and even scaring guests away from ever returning again, something had to be done about him. Eventually, to the dismay of the children and his fans, Foxy was deactivated and Pirate's Cove was shut down, and Foxy never wished anyone a surprise happy birthday again, doomed to rot away in the darkness behind his curtain. Then there was the bite of '87. Where one of the animatronics, most likely Freddy Fazbear himself, bit into the skull of a child while giving them a hug. The parents tried to sue Fazbear Entertainment, but due to the mountain of money they had, an army of lawyers, and all the legal loopholes, they were able to get away scot-free. Because it's amazing how the human body can live without the frontal lobe, you know? Despite legally not suffering for the damages, Freddy Fazbear's took a big hit to its reputation over the accident. As expected, to prevent any more accidents like this from happening, Fazbear Entertainment no longer allowed the animatronics to walk around during the day, only at night to stop their servos from locking up and prevent any criminals from breaking in. However, it all came crashing down when 2 children were reported missing, last seen at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. Then 2 became 5, and everyone started losing hope as they didn't turn up for days, then weeks, then months. Everyone presumed these children were dead, and Freddy Fazbear's had something to do with it. Fazbear Entertainment spent as much money as they could to legally prevent the police from searching the premise and checking the cameras. Eventually, they couldn't afford to keep the court's hands off the security footage, and after handing it over, everyone was horrified to watch as a man in a yellow bear costume similar to Freddy himself lured all the missing children away from their parents and somewhere where they weren't seen on any cameras. Due to the suspect removing the costume and leaving while on camera, the police were able to find and detain him within a matter of days. Since Fazbear Entertainment withheld this footage, all the families of the now assumed murdered children sued the company. This court battle put Fazbear Entertainment financially into the negative and had them facing an uphill battle. That wasn't the end of their struggle, because Freddy Fazbear's Pizza started becoming unsanitary since Fazbear Entertainment could no longer afford the required staff to keep the place clean and running. There were constant complaints about the place being dirty, and the worst of it were the former stars, now grungy performers, stinking of rotting meat with noticeable mucus and even blood leaking out from them, especially around the eyes and mouths. Police were all called in to investigate, and one mother even likened them to reanimated carcasses. Nobody checked inside the animatronics, but it was clear something was wrong with them. This was the final nail in Freddy Fazbear's coffin. because after a long uphill battle and not being able to find a buyer due to nobody wanting to be associated with Fazbear Entertainment, the last Freddy Fazbear's Pizza closed its doors for good in 1989. 4 years later, in 1993, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza is a derelict lot. Fazbear Entertainment is a company in name only so they can hold on to the decaying property. No one remembers who Fazbear Entertainment is anymore, for good reason. No one, that is, except for underground investigator Mike Schmidt. Nobody knows who Mike works for. Some say he's a freelance journalist, others say he's a reporter for the government. He witnessed the events at Freddy's all those years ago and has one burning question on his mind. Where were the bodies from the missing children's incident hidden? Noticing a job ad in the newspaper, Mike sees an opportunity to solve this mystery once and for all. What Mike didn't realize is that job listing was a setup by the owners of Fazbear Entertainment. They knew some people would try to dig up their past and air their dirty laundry again, so they posted the job ad knowing the only people who would apply were those who stuck their noses where they didn't belong. The plan was simple, really. Lure those who would reveal Fazbear Entertainment's dark past into the pizzeria and then take them out while making it look like an accident. In order to make this job look as genuine as possible, they got their manager and longest lasting employee to work the night shift before him and record training tapes. Unfortunately, once he had served his purpose, this loyal man who had done everything the company asked of him was also taken out to tie up any loose ends.
Oh, hey, wow, day 4. I knew you could do it. Hey, listen, I may not be around to send you a message tomorrow. It's been a bad night here for me. I'm kind of glad that I recorded my messages for you when I did. Hey, do me a favor. Maybe sometime you could check inside those suits in the back room. I'm going to try to hold out until someone checks. Maybe it won't be so bad. I always wondered what was in all those empty heads back there. Oh no.
As soon as Mike started his shift, he could tell things were off. No one was there to greet him, and the only amount of training he got was someone calling him and playing the recorded messages of some guy over the phone. The worst part was, he noticed 2 of the animatronics that were on the stage had left, and another one that was behind the curtain had also become active. So this was Fazbear's Entertainment's way of getting rid of Mike and making it look like an accident, by sending the animatronics after him. They didn't send all of them at once because that would look too suspicious. On the first 2 nights, the company only had Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy activated. Surely one of them would get to Mike, and they could easily explain the casualty as a workplace accident caused by a malfunction. If Mike survived the first 2 nights, then they would activate Freddy from night 3 onward to make sure he wouldn't leave the building alive. However, Mike was a tough cookie, and he wasn't going to let some broken robots in old festering plushie costumes take him out. For 5 nights at Freddy's, he braved those animatronics, collected the information he needed, and discovered the fate of what happened to that phone guy. He even came back for 2 more nights, where on the 7th night, he tampered with the animatronics and found out the horrible truth. Inside Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, Foxy, and even the spare yellow bear suit backstage were the bodies of the missing children. Furious and knowing what was ahead, all this company could do was fire Mr. Schmidt for messing with the robots and the foul odor coming off of him as a result. It didn't matter because the animatronics were taken in by the police. Everyone running and associated with Fazbear Entertainment got put into prison, and Freddy Fazbear's Pizza was sold back to the government as a lot without an owner. Mike Schmidt was rewarded as a hero for risking his life to bring closure to the families that lost their young children. What happened to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza? Well, it sat there on that lot for 30 years, further decaying and falling apart until one day, a new company bought the place, wanting to turn it into a horror attraction that retold the horrifying past of Fazbear Entertainment by having thrill seekers actually experience it. But that's a story for another day. The reason why I consider this the darkest and saddest theory of Five Nights at Freddy's 1, despite the happy ending I gave the story, is because people find comfort with the existence of ghosts. By having the kids possess the animatronics, it gives them a continuation of some kind after death. This early version of the story straight up tells everyone, no, these children are dead. There is no possession, and there's no helping them move on to the afterlife. The animatronics couldn't be reasoned with, because there's nothing to reason with. They're just machines, doing what they were programmed to. Honestly, a part of me prefers this more down-to-earth and realistic take on the story. I don't mind Five Nights at Freddy's having ghosts in it, but the ghosts and supernatural shouldn't have been the main focus of the franchise. The reason why people cherish Five Nights at Freddy's 1 and 2 the most out of all the other games is because the animatronics in those games acted like machines you couldn't read. There's terror in that, and while having them possessed by murdered children adds a layer of sympathy, Scott Cawthon remembered that at the end of the night, they're machines out to get you. After all, there's a famous quote when writing monsters in horror. The less you understand about the monster and the less human it appears, the more terrifying it becomes. I want to hear what you think of all this though. Would you have preferred Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, Foxy, and Golden Freddy to not be possessed and a darker take on the whole mythology? Or do you like the lore as it is, with all the ghosts and sci-fi and supernatural elements? Would you have wanted Fazbear Entertainment and other evil greedy companies to be more front and center as the villains of the franchise, or do you like William Afton, the purple guy, being nearly the main focus of the entire series? Most importantly, I just hope you enjoyed the video. If you made it this far, be sure to help spread the word of my videos by liking, subscribing, and telling others about my channel. Hope to catch you in the next video, and until then, watching this one all the way through has made you my shining star.